Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. For the late start, now we are here. Thank you so much. I want to welcome you for our Play to Education free webinar today about the digitalization of school. My name is Kyle. I'm joining you from Beijing, and we have our first speaker, Mr. Ayman Mahrous. He's joining us from Egypt. Hello, Mr. Ayman.
Hello, Mr. Khalid. How are you?
I'm doing great today. Thank you so much for asking. Mr. Ayman
Yes.
will be telling us about the concept of digitalizations of schools. What are the strategies? Because you may have noticed in the last 2 years, education changed 100%, and now we don't know what is the next
Yes.
step to take. Are we going fully offline? Are we going to stay online? What is the right course of action? And in our opinion, there is an opportunity here to change education forever for the better, and Mr. Ayman will give us more details about that.
Yes, sure. طبعا خالد، يعني احنا النهارده في بعض الناس اللي بتحضر معانا في الويبينار عربي، وبعض الناس انجلش. فاحنا يعني قصدنا ان احنا يكون عندنا اللغه بتاعتنا تكون عربي، لكن البرزنتيشن معموله بالانجلش عشان خاطر يبقى كل الناس اللي موجوده معانا تبقى يعني وصل لها المعلومات اللي احنا عايزين نشاركها معاهم. في البدايه طبعا بشكرك على الفرصه الجميله ان انت اتحت لنا النهارده الفرصه ان احنا نتكلم على موضوع من المواضيع المهمه جدا في الوقت الحالي، وهو الديجيتاليزيشن اوف سكولز او رقمنه المدارس، او زي ما بيقولوا كده التحول الرقمي للمدارس. طبعا لا شك ان دلوقتي في الوقت الحالي بقى موجود ضروره ملحه لجميع المدارس، سواء في القطاع الحكومي او في القطاع الخاص، لدخول عنصر التكنولوجيا او عنصر الرقمنه في المجال بتاعهم. فلما بنيجي نتكلم على التحول الرقمي، المقصود بيها ببساطه هو ان احنا بنتحول من التعليم التقليدي اللي احنا كنا بنتبعه قبل كده الى نظام التعلم الالكتروني. فبالتالي احنا اول حاجه هنبدا بيها النهارده مع حضراتكم اللي هو ايه هو الاختلاف او ايه هو الفرق ما بين التعليم التقليدي والتعلم الالكتروني. التعليم التقليدي هو التعليم المتبع او اللي احنا يعني معظم الناس اللي هي في سننا شويه هي اللي اتعودت عليه او اللي هي اتعلمت عن طريقه، وهو ان بيكون التيتشر والستودنت، واحنا طبعا بنتكلم دلوقتي على مستوى المدارس، بنتكلم برضو على مستوى الشركات، بيكون بالنسبه للانستراكتور والترينيز بيكون هم متقابلين في مكان معين، يعني او مكان موحد، بيقدروا ان هم عن طريق المكان ده يتواجهوا فيس تو فيس، وبيقدروا ان هم العمليه التعليميه بتتم بشكل مباشر. الحاجه الثانيه كمان والمهمه ان احنا حتى الليرنينج ماتيريالز او الكونتنت اللي بيبقى بيتسلم للترينيز بيتسلم بشكل فيزيكالي، عشان كده بيبقى لازم حضور الطالب داخل الفصل، وكمان ان الطالب بيقدر ان هو بياخد الفيدباك دايركتلي من التيتشرز، علشان خاطر بيبقى في توجه مباشر او فيس تو فيس كوميونيكيشن ما بينه وما بين التيتشر بتاعه. فده هو الطريقه التقليديه او الطريقه المتبعه للتعليم. بنتكلم بقى على الفرق ما بين التراديشنال ليرنينج والاي ليرنينج. الاي ليرنينج بيعتمد ان الانتراكشن ما بين التيتشر والستودنت بيكون موجود بشكل فيرتشوال، يعني بشكل وهمي، وده نوع من انواع الاي ليرنينج، مش كل انواع الاي ليرنينج. يعني ان شاء الله لو كان لينا فرصه ان احنا في ويبينارز ثانيه هنتكلم فيها عشان خاطر نوضح هل دايما الاي ليرنينج بيعتمد بس ان الطالب المعلم يكون موجود في مكان والطالب موجود في مكان اخر. هيكون في طبعا ويبينار بنتكلم فيه على التفاصيل دي. لا، في عندنا اكتر من طريقه ان احنا نقدر نستخدم فيها الاي ليرنينج، لكن الغرض الاساسي او الحاجه الاساسيه اللي هو ممكن بنقول عليها دلوقتي الفيرتشوال كلاس روم، اللي هي اتعملت عشان خاطر ان الطالب يقدر ان هو يحصل على الماده العلميه وهو موجود في مكانه، وفي نفس الوقت التيتشر مش محتاج ان هو يروح في مكان معين يتقابلوا مع بعض فيزيكلي عشان خاطر ان هو يقدم الكونتنت اللي هو عايز يوصله للطالب. ده بالنسبه للانتراكشنز بين التيتشرز والستودنتس. الحاجه الثانيه الكونتنت اللي بيديه الطالب او المعلم للطالب بيتم عن طريق حاجه اسمها ال ام اس، واحنا عندنا دلوقتي النهارده كمان جزء مهم جدا بنتكلم فيه ايه هو ال ام اس، وايه هي الحاجات والادوات المهمه اللي انا محتاجها عشان خاطر ان انا يكون عندي ال ام اس بشكل جيد. فبالتالي بيكون ان عمليه الكونتنت دي كلها بتعمل لها عمليه شيرنج عن طريق ال ام اس بشكل ديجيتالايز. اخر حاجه من ضمن الحاجات اللي احنا بنتكلم عليها من ضمن الاي ليرنينج، ان الستودنت بيكون بيقدر ان هو بيأكسس الكونتنت في اي وقت وفي اي مكان، ودي من ضمن المميزات الهامه جدا ان بيوفرها الاي ليرنينج للمدارس او حتى على مستوى الشركات. ان احنا الطالب يقدر ان هو يحصل على المعلومه وهو موجود في بيته، مش محتاج ان هو يضيع وقت ويضيع جهد عشان خاطر يوصل لمكان ما عشان يتواصل مع المعلم وياخد منه الماده العلميه اللي هو بيتكلم عنها. فده بكل بساطه كده تعريف بسيط جدا، يمكن عشان خاطر الوقت النهارده ضيق فاحنا عملنا تعريف مبسط عشان نعرف احنا جايين نتكلم على فكره التحول الرقمي للمدارس ازاي بيتم من الشكل التراديشنال للشكل الاي ليرنينج. طيب انا كمدرسه ليه انا محتاج ان انا اعمل ديجيتالايز للسكول بتاعتي؟ ليه محتاج ان انا احولها للشكل الرقمي؟ اول حاجه من الحاجات المهمه جدا ان انا اقدر ان انا اوصل للمعلومه دي بشكل بسيط وبشكل سهل. ودي من الحاجات المهمه جدا لسهوله الوصول للمعلومه، ان الطالب في اي وقت عايز يوصل للمعلومه بتاعته ب يعني ضغطه زر زي ما بيقولوا يقدر يوصل للمعلومه عن طريق الكونتنت اللي هو رفعه التيتشر على LMS او عن طريق المكان اللي هم اتفقوا فيه مع بعض. الحاجه الثانيه اللي هي بيسيف التايم اند انرجي، لان انا كطالب انا مش محتاج ان انا عشان خاطر اخد كورس معين انا محتاج ان انا اضيع وقت عشان اوصل لمكان ما اخد فيه الكورس ده، او حتى ان انا اعمل طاقه عشان خاطر اوصل للمكان ده عشان اقدر اوصل للمعلومه بتاعتي. انا بقدر ان انا بوصل للمعلومه من المكان اللي انا موجود فيه. الحاجه الثالثه هي ريديوس كوست، او اللي انا بقلل في التكلفه، ودي من الحاجات المهمه جدا. يمكن في بعض الناس عندها مبدا ان احنا لو حبينا ان احنا نعمل ديجيتاليزيشن في المدارس بتاعتنا ده احنا هندفع اكتر. بالعكس، احنا لما بنيجي نحسبها على المستوى القريب ممكن تحس ان انت بتدفع اكتر من الطريقه العاديه، لكن على المدى البعيد بتلاقي ان انت المحتوى اللي انت بتحطه او التول اللي انت استخدمتها هي تول بتستخدم بشكل مباشر على طول الزمن، وبتقدر ان انت بتحدثها بشكل تلقائي. لكن انا دلوقتي لو حبيت ان انا ادي مثلا الماده العلميه بتاعتي بشكل هارد كوبي، فالهارد كوبي ده محتاج ان انا اطبعه بشكل معين واعمله بشكل معين عشان خاطر يوصل للطالب، وفي نفس الوقت محتاج ان انا اوصله بشكل معين، فبياخد كل ده تكلفه مني كتيتشر او بياخد مني كمدرسه تكلفه عشان اوصل المعلومه بتاعتي. الحاجه اللي بعد كده اللي هي اللي انا اقدر انا يبقى في عندي تريننج امباكت، يعني اقدر انا اعرف الفيدباك بتاع التريننج او اقدر انا اشوف الامباكت بتاع التريننج بالنسبه للستودنتس بتوعي، واقدر ان انا استخدم الماتيريال دي من وقت للتاني. يعني انا كمدرس النهارده او السنه دي انا تعبت ان انا احط الماده العلميه بتاعتي اللي انا اشتغلت عليها، السنه اللي جايه اقدر ان انا استخدم نفس المعلومات اللي انا كنت بستخدمها السنه اللي قبليها واقدر ان انا احدث عليها واطور عليها التحديث اللي انا محتاجه. بعد كده من ضمن الحاجات المهمه هي engaging للبيرنتس. من ضمن الحاجات اللي هي بتضايق شويه البيرنت ان هو مضطر ان هو يوصل للمدرسه عشان خاطر يعرف درجات ابنه، عشان يعرف سلوك ابنه، عشان يعرف حاجات كتيره جدا عن السلوك او ادواته داخل المدرسه بتبقى عامله ازاي. انا عن طريق الاي ليرنينج بيقدر عن طريق ابلكيشن او عن طريق البورتال المتاح للبيرنت ان هو يقدر يعرف كل المعلومات دي وهو موجود في مكانه. من ضمن الحاجات كمان اللي هي ان انا اقدر اتراك الليرنر بروجرس، يعني دلوقتي انا عايز اشوف الليرنر قدر ان هو يحقق قد ايه من التقدم داخل المحتوى بتاعي. فانا من كل فتره للتانيه اقدر انا اشوف الطالب بتاعي كان بيحصل قد ايه وبدا يبقى تحصيله اكتر وبدا يبقى تحصيله اقل، فبالتالي بقى عندي تراكنج للليرنينج او الليرنر بروجرس بشكل سهل وبشكل بسيط. ده ببساطه كده اللي هو ليه انا محتاج ان انا اعمل ديجيتالايز للسكول بتاعتي. طيب ازاي ان انا اعمل ديجيتالايز للسكول بتاعتي؟ ايه الخطوات اللي انا هعملها عشان خاطر ان انا اعمل ديجيتال ترانسفورميشن او تحول رقمي؟ اول حاجه انا محتاج ان انا ايدنتيفاي الليرنينج نيدز. انا عايز اعرف ايه المتطلبات بتاعتي من الاي ليرنينج عموما. الحاجه الثانيه ان انا يبقى في عندي فورمال بروسيس عشان اكولكت الانفورميشن او الداتا بتاعت الطلاب او الداتا بتاعت المدرسين او الداتا بتاعت الاداريين اللي موجودين داخل المدرسه عشان اقدر ان انا احطها على LMS اللي انا هختاره. كمان من ضمن الحاجات المهمه اللي انا ازاي عشان خاطر ديجيتالايز السكول بتاعتي ان انا بسلكت ايه هي التريننج ماتيريالز اللي هي اقدر ان انا احطها عن طريق الاي ليرنينج سوليوشنز اللي انا بستخدمها، وبشوف ايه هي الامكانيات اللي موجوده عندي كمدرسه اقدر ان انا استخدمها عشان خاطر اعمل حاجه اسمها اعمل ديجيتال ترانسفورميشن. لان كل مدرسه ممكن يكون ليها ادواتها المختلفه او الامبلمنتيشن بلان المختلفه بتاعتها. انا كمدرسه اقدر ان انا اوفر للطلاب كلهم اجهزه كمبيوتر او اجهزه لابتوب او اجهزه تابلت، فكده بيبقى ليها امبلمنتيشن بلان بشكل معين. لكن انا كمدرسه ما عنديش السوليوشنز اللي انا اقدر انا اوفرها لكل الطلاب. ممكن يكون عندي الكلاسز بس هي اللي فيها اجهزه كمبيوتر، فبالتالي انا هعمل امبلمنتيشن بلان بناء على كذا. فبالتالي ده مهم جدا. الحاجه كمان المهمه ان انا اشوف العقبات اللي هي بتقابلني عشان خاطر ان انا اعمل الاي ليرنينج. زي على سبيل المثال انا عندي مشكله في الانترنت او عندي مشكله في اجهزه الحاسب الالي، فكل ده من ضمن الحاجات اللي انا محتاج ان انا احطها في الحسبان وانا محتاج ان انا بعمل ديجيتاليزيشن للسكول بتاعتي. من الحاجات المهمه جدا هي عمليه الموتيفيشن للامبلويز، سواء الامبلويز دولت انا بتكلم على مستوى التيتشرز او على مستوى الستودنتس، لان دي من الحاجات المهمه جدا. عمليه تغيير بتبقى صعبه جدا لان بيبقى في مقاومه للتغيير من المتدربين او من المعلمين نفسهم، ان احنا عايزين نغير من الطريقه التقليديه التراديشنال اللي احنا عايزين نغير لشكل اي ليرنينج. بياخد وقت شويه لكن بطريقه تحفيزيه او ان انا احدد زي موتيفيشن بلان اقدر انا احفز بيه الطلاب بتوعي والمعلمين عشان يستخدموا الطريقه دي، مع الوقت هيقدروا ان هم يتعودوا عليها. اخر حاجه اللي انت هتختار ال ام اس المناسب ليك. طيب ايه المعايير؟ ال ام اس اولا هي ليرنينج مانجمنت سيستم، او اللي هو نظام الاداره المدرسي اللي انا بستخدمه عشان خاطر احط الكونتنت بتاعي عليه. ايه المعايير اللي انا بستخدمها انا كمدرسه عشان خاطر اختار ال ام اس بتاعي؟ اول حاجه من ضمن الحاجات اللي انا محتاجها ان انا اقدر احط اليوزرز بتوعي او اضيف اليوزرز بتوعي على ال ام اس بشكل بسيط وبشكل كاتيجورايز. يعني الطلاب موجودين في مكان، المعلمين موجودين في مكان، الاداريين موجودين في مكان، وكل واحد من الادوار دي بيقدر ان هو يبقى ليه الصلاحيات الخاصه بيه على حسب الدور بتاعه. الاي كورسز او الكورسز اللي انا هحطها على السيستم بتاعي يبقى في مكان معين اقدر ان انا احط عليه الكورس بشكل مرتب وبشكل منظم. الكلاسز ان انا الطلاب اللي موجودين عندي على ال ام اس يكون عندي مقسمين لكلاس، عشان كل تيتشر اقدر ان انا اعمل له اساين على الكلاس الخاص بيه عشان يقدر يحط الكونتنت او المحتوى الخاص بيه. فيرتشوال كلاسز او فيرتشوال كلاس روم ان انا يبقى في عندي اداه من ضمن الادوات اللي موجوده داخل السيستم اللي انا اقدر اتواصل مع الطلاب فيرتشوال او اونلاين، ما يبقاش فيس تو فيس. من الحاجات كمان المهمه اللي انا بختارها وانا بقيم ال ام اس اللي انا بختاره ان يكون في عندي اداه اللي انا اقدر اعمل سيرفي او اقدر اعمل بوست عشان اقيس مدى رضا الطلاب او المعلمين او المستخدمين عموما للنظام على السيستم اللي انا بشتغل عليه. يكون في عندي تقارير سهله وبسيطه اقدر احصل من خلالها على استخدام اللي هو اليوسج بقى بتاعنا بتاع الطلاب والمعلمين بشكل بسيط وبشكل سهل. في عندي فيرتشوال سبيسز، يبقى في عندي زي سبيس او جروب اقدر احط فيه مجموعه من الطلاب في مكان معين واقدر ان هم يتواصلوا مع بعض بشكل سهل وبشكل بسيط. يدعم ال ام اس طبعا يكون افضل بكتير جدا ان ال ام اس ده يكون بيدعم الموبايل ابس اللي انا اقدر ان انا ادخل على السيستم من خلال موبايل ابلكيشن علشان اسهل على الطالب وسهل على المعلم ان هو يدخل بسهوله على السيستم من غير الدخول على الويب. يكون في عندي اسسمنت تول او كويزز تول اللي انا اقدر احط اختبارات رقميه وواجبات رقميه، ودي حاجه مهمه جدا عشان يحصل لها عمليه اوتو جريدد او عمليه تصحيح تلقائي بدون ما اعمل للمعلم او الطالب جهد عشان خاطر ان هو يصحح الواجب بتاعي او الاسسمنت بتاعي. مونيتورنج اللي انا اقدر اتابع، انا كاداره مدرسه اقدر ان انا اتابع كل حاجه، اقدر ان انا اعمل مونيتورنج للطلاب وشغلهم، اقدر ان انا اعمل مونيتورنج للمعلمين وشغلهم، الاداريين نفسهم وشغلهم، وهكذا. يكون في عندي زي سوشيال او جيميفيكيشن تولز عشان اقدر انا احفز الطلاب ان هم يستخدموا السيستم ويكون بالنسبه لهم الموضوع سهل وبسيط. ده كده ببساطه اللي هو احنا ليه محتاجين ان احنا يكون في عندنا ديجيتال ترانسفورميشن في المدرسه، ايه الادوات اللي احنا محتاجينها، وايه هي القواعد او الرولز اللي انا بستخدمها عشان خاطر اختار عن طريقها ال ام اس بتاعي. المايك معاك خالد.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aman. This has been like a great intro into the concept of digitalization. And one of the most important points that you made and talked about is about the teachers themselves. Like, how does digitalization affect the teachers? And for that, we have our next speaker, Alexander. Alexander is from South Africa. He is an experienced teacher that went through digital transformation himself, and he will be giving us more details about how to prepare your teachers and how to help them get ready for the digital transformation.
Hello, Kyle. Thank you for having me.
Hi,
Can you hear me
Alexander.
all right?
Yes, we can hear you great. The floor is yours.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. It must be the middle of the night in Beijing.
Yes, that's true. It's
All right,
already
so
after
I'm going to
midnight in
jump.
Beijing.
Yes, of course. All right, so I'm going to be chatting a little bit about preparing teachers for a virtual classroom environment, whether you've come from an offline school teaching in a class, or you've created your own business, or you're a solo teacher yourself. Just a little bit of tips and tricks, what I've learned, the process from transitioning and taking your education online. So let me jump into the first point, which is going to be training teachers to give a confident performance in class. So when starting out teaching online, many teachers have the deer in headlights look, right? Obviously, it's like stage fright, the spotlight's on you, shock, everybody's looking. So I think it's imperative that a training process is done with teachers to make them confident and comfortable with using all of the tools that are available for online teaching, and just to boost confidence in a teacher's ability to teach online. So like most things, practice makes perfect, and a training process needs to be done with the teachers in order to prepare them for this. So first of all, teachers need to be confident with using the class tools. Now, if you think about a normal classroom environment, a teacher can be talking to the class, writing on the blackboard, opening a textbook, and everything happens organically, right? It's seamless. It just happens one after the next. And the same thing needs to work in a virtual classroom environment, right? The last thing you want is for a teacher to be presenting and then all of a sudden lose focus and trying to pull up class tools from the bottom. You're not engaging with your students, you're losing the focus. So I think a training needs to be done for all teachers to know how to use the tools that are available. There are lots of YouTube tutorials, and just to get comfortable and confident being in this kind of environment and using the tools to enhance your classroom experience. I've got my notes on the side here that I'm referring to. So yeah, teachers need to learn to multitask, and that really is going to help with that. Using classroom tools can very much enhance your online classroom experience. All right, the next point, allowing students to be comfortable in class and willing to express themselves. So teaching is a two-way street, right? We need students to react and respond. It's an open dialogue between teacher and student. In my opinion, it's not so much teacher says this and student does that. It's more teacher and student working together to achieve the goals that are set for that particular student. So therefore, the student needs to be comfortable to engage when it's necessary. This starts at the beginning of any lesson, right? Breaking the ice, playing a game, having some conversation, some banter, some jokes, something light, building that rapport and bond between student and teacher, and allowing everybody in the classroom experience to be comfortable to express themselves. So, something as small as video size, right? If you have a new student in class in a real world situation and you bring them to the front of the class and say, talk, they might freeze up and get really nervous. And the same goes for something as small as video size. You bring a student in like this, they might freeze up and not be willing to participate. So it's just a good idea to kind of monitor this and know where your student's confident level is. You might want to keep their camera smaller or even turn it off sometimes just to get that confidence going at the beginning of a class. So the same can be said for the opposite, right? If you have a student that is being disruptive in class, you might want to bring their video out large and put them on the spot and kind of engage with them in that way. And it might adjust their response to your lesson. In terms of group classes and discipline with students, I think that's another topic for another day. All right, teacher body language, very important. I know this is, a given and very obvious, but I still think a training process needs to be done with teachers to be able to use the facility that they have. So, facial expressions, eye contact, using your hands as an online teacher. Making sure to look someone in the eye means looking in the camera, not looking down at their video that might be in the bottom right. Because again, you're not engaging with them. You're looking down. They're not seeing you look at them. So all these little tips and tricks definitely accumulate and help with this, this body language of a teacher. So at the same time, I'm not saying be OTT and overly expressive, but there's a right time and a right place to be colorful and animated as a teacher, right? So get to know when that is, depending on the age of your student, what kind of student you have. You might want to heighten your performance as a teacher, or you might want to bring it down to earth a little bit. So get to know when that is. There's a time to be theatrical and there's a time to be down to earth when it comes to online teaching. All right, next point, enhancing your classroom experience with class tools. So using class tools provided can really enhance your experience and the students' experience within your class, right? So for example, with Class N, there's a plethora of tools here available that you can use. Get to know them. Make sure if you're an organization and you have teachers, that teachers are going through a training process to use these tools, watching YouTube videos, using them to access whatever they need to in class, and keep your students engaged and enthused throughout your lesson plans. So get to know the app that you're using and use it to its full potential. Very important. All right, on to the next little slide here. Online and offline courses can coexist. Now, if a business is considering taking their training or education from offline to online, it doesn't have to be this huge decision. You can slowly progress and take some of it online at first, right? So as an example, training can be set up in a way that, any theory that can be done online can be done, and physical stuff can be done offline. Again, with online learning, you can reach anyone, anywhere in the world. You can have a much larger group of people. It's cost effective, time saving. And I think all of this accumulates in, online and offline courses being able to coexist in an online and offline environment. All right, assigning the right teacher to the right student. So if you're growing your online education platform, or if you're looking for a specific teacher for a specific student, the very, very important that we make sure there's a good rapport between student and teacher. Everybody needs to be comfortable, right? So having teachers, a variety of teachers fit for each level of student or kind of student is advisable. Some teachers are much better with lower levels in their teaching styles, body language, how animated they are, their vocal tone even. Some teachers are more serious, down to earth, and better suited for students that relate to that a lot more. I don't think that, in my opinion, matching age or gender matters too much. It's more about personality and how a teacher does and can engage with a student and vice versa. All right, a teacher must not be afraid to segue into other topics of conversation. So I think this pertains mostly to ESL education or learning another language online. But the goal of teaching a language is to get the student talking, right? Get that dialogue going, get them interested, get them talking confidently. So therefore, I always advise my teachers to prompt conversation, allow the students to ask questions, be interested in other topics outside of your class material. Don't be afraid to segue into that conversation, go down a rabbit hole, explore whatever the topic is. The student might learn new vocabulary, something about a new country, something about a new culture, and all being done in that specific language. Therefore, you are broadening the education from not only language learning, but learning about general knowledge within that specific language. And that really is a confident boost when it comes to learning a language and being confident to make conversation and speak about a variety of topics. Creating your specific brand of teaching style. So, this is going to be for an organization that is looking to have teachers for private students or to be outsourcing teachers. So I just want to touch on recruiting teachers and training teachers up for a second. So there are two ways to do this, right? Number one, you can outsource teachers from an outsourcing company. That is one way. This way, you're going to get teachers that are professional, experienced, trained, know exactly what they're doing, and they're ready to go. Cost of this can be a little higher, and the teachers might be working for several other companies. So, you have to work out the scheduling for all of this. But what you're getting are experienced teachers. Plus, you as the organization, you're not dealing personally with each teacher. You're dealing with the organization that is outsourcing the teacher. And it makes it a lot easier with the management. The other option is to find and train up your own team of teachers. So even if these teachers are not very well trained or they don't have a lot of experience, you can take this upon yourself to do this yourself or get a teacher trainer in to do it. With this way of training teachers, it's interesting because you can train them up to teach in a specific style that is associated with your brand, how you would like them to present your class material or your course. So you are creating more of a niche product of teacher that is going to be teaching your students coming in. Also with this way, it's nice promotion for the team to come together. Teachers get to know the organization very well, and there's opportunity for your teachers to work their way up in your business, whether it's training more teachers coming in at the end or doing a variety of other things within your company. All right, so what's next? So last thing I'm going to touch on is it's an exciting time to be involved in online education. And yes, this is a given, but it really, really is. I mean, there are so many innovators out there working in this industry, creating new opportunities. As the world of online education grows, so do the ideas, possibilities, the avenues to create new business. So be creative, think outside the box, and focus on a niche part of the industry. Make it your own, trust your gut, and don't be afraid to outsource when you need to, because it can get very overwhelming when running your own business. So creating a niche product that you can sell that is specific to you and your talents, I think is key. So trust yourself and your decisions, and you shall find success. And that's all from me. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you so much, Alexander. It has been really great. As a teacher myself, I can relate to everything that you said. It has been great. Thank you so much for this advice. Each point that you mentioned and touched on is extremely essential to be able to control an online classroom and make it feel as real as it can get, especially when we haven't studied ourselves that way when we were growing up. So thank you so much. And
Sure.
at the end, you will come back for questions from our audience. Now we
Thanks, Kyle.
have Teacher Jimmy. Teacher Jimmy will be talking about the curriculum that we can use when we are teaching in the new digital age. Hi, Jimmy.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
Welcome. The stage is
Can you
yours
hear me?
now.
Yeah.
We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Jimmy. It's easier to call me Jimmy. I'm actually Ognjen Milovanovic, but that's too difficult. So let's stick to Jimmy. Today I will talk about PBL, or project-based learning, and why it is so important in this new digital age, where more and more children are getting their education online. And I think it's very, very important to remember that the old way of teaching is kind of outdated, like learning facts and focusing more on repeating the same thing over and over again in order to understand it. That's kind of outdated, I think. So I have a presentation prepared that I will share with you. Just a moment. Oh, sorry, my camera is dying. And this happens. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So, guys, before I get into the presentation, I also want to share some points on why PBL is so important. I'm looking at my notes right now, and actually, I just realized I left out the most important thing of why PBL is so important. First of all, it is so much fun. That's the most important thing, right? Because when you are learning something, you want to have a lot of fun. That goes for everything. If you want to play the guitar, while you're doing it, you're having fun because you love it. Or you like math, that's perfect. But having fun is so important. And project-based learning is exactly that. Like, it's a medium where we can learn a lot of new things while having so much fun. So as a teacher, I think that's the most important thing. It's always the most important thing. But among other things, I also want to talk about collaboration. Collaboration is an essential part of PBL. It's very important because students get to work together. And a lot of students lack this skill because they're used to doing things by themselves and not really focusing on how their colleagues or their friends, their classmates, can help them. They can build positive relationships with their teachers, with other students, and it gets them a lot of insight, and it's going to be very, very useful for their future careers because most jobs today revolve around collaboration, right? Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is problem solving. Yeah, problem solving is also an essential skill to have. It's also good to learn from your failures. So sometimes you have a very difficult problem in front of you and you fail. And I think this format encourages you to just pick yourself up and try again, which is amazing. Students should never be afraid of failing, and they should never be afraid of facing a problem. Of course, creativity is also very, very important. And some students are inherently creative. They can do lots of things. They've been creative their whole lives. But some students are really not, or at least they don't know they are. It's always somewhere in there. Everybody's a little bit creative. So PBL encourages creativity, which is also an amazing thing when it comes to learning. Like, it goes into having fun as well. When you're creating, you're having fun because you feel good. In-depth understanding. That's my next point I want to talk about. So, because a lot of these projects revolve around children doing research themselves. So they would go on Google, or maybe they have a book about a certain topic, whatever it is. A lot of times their parents help them to research for a certain task that they have. But this is a very immersive way to approach anything, actually. So I think in-depth understanding is really, really crucial when it comes to doing these projects, and it's not forced upon the student. For example, a lot of old-fashioned ways of teaching is, as I said, repetition. You got that book, you got to memorize every single word within the book, which is not fun at all. Let's be honest, nobody wants to do it. So this is a very, very unique way where students they have the power. They have what it takes to solve the problem. They just need to be just a little bit motivated. And of course, the right teacher is always a welcome addition to this mix. Okay, so self-confidence. This was amazing. I have to tell you, I had an enormous pleasure of conducting a PBL-based summer camp just a couple of weeks ago for Plato Education, and it was such an amazing experience for me. And the most jarring thing that I've noticed is how much self-confidence the students gained by the end of the course. It was really a joy to behold. So this is also a great thing when it comes to these kinds of projects and this way of teaching, because I think self-confidence is, of course, very important. Everybody's got that special something inside of them, and this is a great way to show it and to unleash it. Critical thinking. Critical thinking comes a little bit later. As I said, most of my students became critical thinkers by the end of of the course, but I think this is great because they start asking questions. They're no longer just listening; they are curious. So they ask me, "Teacher Jimmy, what is this or what is that? Like, how does that work?" Amazing. I always love those kinds of situations where a student asks me something. It means he is or he or she is really engaging with me. We have perseverance, right? Perseverance, amazing thing to have. Never give up. It actually ties into what I've been talking about earlier. So never give up. Even if you fail, keep going. Project management, as you will see in the little presentation that I've had, that I have kind of changing pages by itself. I don't know why it's doing that. You will see that a lot of these PBLs revolve around projects that can keep the student thinking and busy and very engaged. So we'll talk more about that later. I just have a couple of more things to touch upon, and we'll start looking at the presentation. Curiosity. So it inspires curiosity. A lot of these students, for example, we were talking about endangered animals. They didn't even know about many endangered animals while we were doing this summer camp. And by the end, they literally became experts. They became curious. They Googled, they researched, and they became experts. And I was so happy to be able to lead them into something that's a really important thing. Like endangered animals are, it's a great thing to think about because we are it's mostly our fault. So it's great. And empowerment. By the end of this, the student comes out of it empowered and believing he can do anything. So all these points prove that this is the future of teaching, the future of learning. It's the future of education. So let's take a quick look at this presentation right here. So here, this is what I've been talking about so far, what PBL entails. We have teamwork, public product, revision, reflection, student voice, authenticity, sustained inquiry, and challenging problem, right? All these things I've already talked about, but this is a nice summary of all those things. On the next page, oh yes, I wanted to touch upon this as well. High quality curriculum. Why is this important? Well, this is immensely important. You can be the best teacher ever. You can have the best behaved students in the world. If the quality of the materials are not there, you're going to have a very big problem. Luckily, I did not have this problem. I want to give a shout out to Hannah, who created an amazing material for us, and we blasted through it. It was so engaging, and it's super crucial for any of these projects. So here, oh my God, my camera. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know. It started doing this yesterday. Next, we have this is a great example of a project that a student would do, designing a family tree. Now, why is this good? This is good on many levels. It is very personal. Everybody is proud of their family. Everybody wants to share, their cool uncle or how many people they got in their family, and it's really engaging for the kids. Also, it installs a sense of pride. Like, this is me. I want to show you myself. I want to show you who I am and where I come from. An amazing project. And the children really, really enjoy it. So this is just one example of how it can work. Okay, a little principle. This is great because mostly these kids are school children. Some of them are older, but mostly they still go to school. And yeah, this is what's relatable. Teaching about school subjects, days of the week, like what's your favorite day? What kind of a subject do you have? Why do you have this? We go into all of this. So I think this is amazing and a really, really good way to engage the students. Give them something relatable. Next, okay, city model. This is really creative. This really goes into that creativity aspect of what we talked about. Creating a city model, it's a hard thing to do actually when you think about it. And some kids really enjoy this. Some kids who are a little bit shy, who don't want to express themselves, they have a little bit of a problem doing this one. But it's an amazing way for a child to express themselves, I think. Um, Here we have an amazing city model. We did a solar system model in this summer camp, and everybody did a great job. At first, they were a little bit skeptical, but by the end, everybody did it, and it was great, and they loved it. Future technologies. Now, I have to admit, many of my students schooled me when it came to future technologies. I was very surprised at how many of them are capable and educated in using like 3D modeling and all sorts of programs that I don't know anything about. So some of them used 3D rendering to create solar systems and charts and graphs, and it was amazing. So this also ties into getting modernizing the child, so the child knows what the current technologies are and how to use them. An amazing way to teach using all these things. And of course, I talked about the solar system model. The solar system model was a great experience for me personally. Had a lot of fun counting the planets, singing the song about the planets, and yeah, just having a blast. So as you can see from all these materials, from everything that I've shared, PBL is such a fun way to learn, such an immersive way to learn. And I think it is the future of education. Thank you, everybody. That's it from me. So yeah, I'll be here if anybody has any questions. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ogni, and thank you so much, Teacher Jimmy. This has been great. Project-based learning is 100% the future. It looks so fun. I wish when we were kids, we were able to learn that way instead of just random like amounts of data coming our way. So now we will start.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. I will start bringing out speakers again for the Q&A for our audience members to start asking them questions. So we'll start with Mr. Ayman. I'll bring him back on stage. For our audience, you can type in the chat box your chat box questions for Mr. Ayman regarding.
Khaled, please.
مستر ايمن دلوقتي الاودينس هيكتبوا لو عندهم سؤال ليك في الشات بوكس، وانا هقرا لك السؤال وانت تقدر تجاوبهم على طول لايف.
Sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Khaled. I can't hear you.
سامعني كده؟
Yes.
معانا سؤال من اودينس ممبر بيقول do you think digitalization can work for public schools too؟ يعني تفتكر only international schools او
Sure.
private schools يقدروا يعملوا كده، ولا public schools برضو يقدروا يعملوا digitalizations للسكول، وايه الصعوبات اللي ممكن يواجهوها؟
شور طبعا، يعني البابليك سكولز اور البرايفت سكولز اوريدي، يعني حتى احنا شايفين على ارض الواقع ان البابليك سكولز اوريدي بداوا ان هم يستخدموا الديجيتال ترانسفورميشن في المدارس، ويمكن هيبقى السيت اب بتاعها مختلف شويه. يعني انت لما بتشتغل على مستوى البابليك سكولز بيبقى الموضوع بيكون مختلف، العدد بيبقى اكتر، بيبقى التحدي بيكون اكتر، الامبلمنتيشن بلان بتكون مختلفه عن كتير عن البرايفت سكولز لان الاعداد بتبقى مختلفه. في النهايه احنا بنقول ان الديجيتاليزيشن بقت حاجه مهمه جدا دلوقتي. كل المدارس سواء بابليك او برايفت سكولز بقت متوجهه ليها، حتى يعني في الفتره الاخيره مع كوفيد 19 والاثر اللي حصل في الفتره الاخيره خلى كل المدارس حتى اللي ما كانتش بتستخدم الديجيتال ترانسفورميشن في المدارس بدأ ان هم يستعينوا بيها، لان هي غطت المشكله ان هي عدم حضور الطلاب المدارس وعدم حضور مدرسين المدارس. فطبعا شور بابليك سكولز اكيد محتاجه ان هي تشتغل على الديجيتال ترانسفورميشن زيها زي البرايفت سكولز بالظبط.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So all schools can go digital and virtual with little differences in the setup and the way that they do it. And of course, if you are doing it through public schools, you need to go through your school districts and your Ministry of Education. They have budgets for these things and they have programs to make it happen for public schools. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayman. And now we will bring our next speaker to take a question.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll bring our next speaker to take a question from our audience. Welcome back, Alexander. So, our audience, do you have
Hello.
a question for Alexander? So, they will type it in the chat box and I will read the question for you and you can answer it live directly to the camera.
Okay, cool.
So, any question for Alexander from our audience? We have time.
Oh, Kyle, you've gone off again, your sound.
I'm sorry.
There we go. You're back.
How can older teachers adapt to a virtual classroom? So yeah, that's actually a great question. I myself, I'm very curious. Working for Classin and working for like a virtual classroom company, I have faced a lot of teachers that like are afraid. They say like, I am in my late 30s, I'm in my early 40s, I'm in my 50s, I've worked offline my whole life. I'm not very tech savvy, which is actually very funny because I myself, even though I'm in my late 20s, I'm not super tech savvy. So the fear that they will not be able to learn how to use an online classroom and like utilize it in the best way. What do you say to this from your experience?
Well, I think like anything, it's just a training process and building confidence to use these tools. These tools are here to facilitate the knowledge and that we have to give. And I mean, I'll give you a personal example. Like my mom, who taught for 40 years, she worked in South Africa, she's worked in China, she's worked in the Middle East. She retired, moved back home, and I said, you know, I started my business and I needed some more teachers. I said, come on, Mom, let's jump on board. I'll show you the ropes and train you. And she was exactly like I said, that deer in headlights. And she was extremely trepidatious to go ahead with it. But I convinced her, I trained her up, she studied up, and she just started implementing all of the rules from the training. And she got more and more confidence. And now, excuse me, it's like second nature to her. You know, it's like an extension of yourself to be able to teach this way. It's learning technology, and you know, it is overwhelming for a lot of people, you know, even learning to use a phone for some people. But just like that, I think anybody, if they have the necessary training, that they are able to confidently be able to use these platforms. So yeah, I think you definitely can transition from offline to online.
100%. I totally agree with you, Alex. I myself, when I started working like in a new company, I had a lot of software, not just like online classrooms, a lot of design software, a lot of things that I was like, okay, how am I ever going to learn this if I didn't grow up using them? But like you said, it's just a
Mm,
matter of training and practice, and then it becomes like a second nature to you. So thank you so much for this answer.
for sure.
Thank you so much for the
Sure.
question to our audience member. I hope that answered your question. Now we have time for one more question for teacher Jimmy. Thank you, Alex. Welcome back, Jimmy. So, for our
Thank you.
audience, if you have any questions related to project-based learning, we have time for one question for Ognian, aka Teacher Jimmy, to answer about project-based learning from his personal experience as a PBL teacher with Plato Education. So, our visitor is asking, is project-based learning suitable for young students? Good question. I'm very curious to know, like, does that system work only for older students, or you can get younger students like used to it as well?
Well, it depends, of course. It depends on how young the student is. Of course, I don't think 3-year-olds or 2-year-olds would be suitable for this, but I think any age from I don't know 5 or 6 and up, I think that would be suitable. And I think yeah, of course, you just need the right materials. The materials need to be suitable for that age, and that's basically it. Of course, the teacher also needs to be suitable, very patient, because the younger the kids are, the more difficult it is to maintain that kind of productivity and everything that goes into having a successful class. It can get a little chaotic. Even with older students, it sometimes
That's
gets
true.
chaotic, but with younger students especially. So the right teacher, with the right teacher, and with the right materials, with the right approach, of course, I think any student from 6, let's say 6 plus, is suitable.
Thank you so much. And to add to what you said, I noticed from the projects that you showed, some of these projects were like super easy that 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds can do, like family tree. And I noticed also some projects that are more complex that will work better with older students. So, like you said, I believe it depends all on the material and the teacher teaching it, if they are used to younger students or older students, and like how you create the settings. For 3-year-olds, I agree with you. I think there are more proper things that they can study, such as phonics or sounds of letters or words,
Mhm.
to build like basis before they start understanding what is a project and how like to achieve it and how to build something.
Exactly.
That's an amazing answer. And to summarize, anything above 4 or 5 years old, anyone above that age can start with project based learning, and they can keep learning for the rest of their lives using that method. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Yeah, I have 4-year-olds. I have 4-year-olds who are amazing. Like when I teach 4-year-olds who are just super amazing and smart. So yeah, it can be done.
That's true. That's true. Sometimes I get really surprised by the maturity of some students. Like I have this concept, like
Exactly.
conception, like preconception in my head. 4-year-olds can do 1, 2, 3, but then I go into a classroom and they can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like to infinity. Sometimes there people are just talented. So we need to always test first and assess our students and then make decisions based on that, because not all 4-year-olds are the same, not all 5-year-olds are the same, and so on.
Yes,
That's
exactly
a
right.
great point you raised there. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jimmy. Now,
Thank you, Kyle.
thank you everyone for coming to our webinar today. I hope you learned something about how to implement the digital and virtual methods of learning in your schools, how to handle your teachers and encourage them into learning that, and also how to implement project based learning and get the benefits of having a good curriculum with concrete results. If you have any questions to our speakers, more questions to our speakers, or to Plato Education about how to digitalize your schools, if you want to be part of our project based learning systems and implement it to your students, or if you want to use Classen, the software that we are using, please don't hesitate to send us an email at admin@platoeducation.com. You can send us an email and we'll be more than happy to assist you. Go digital, go virtual, train your teachers, and implement project-based learning at your schools. Thank you so much to all our speakers. They come from all over the world, and that's amazing to see that despite the different countries, despite the different languages, like virtual and digital education puts us all on the same page and makes us agree on the same way of teaching and learning, which says a lot of things about how good the future can be. Thank you so much and see you next event. Bye bye.